You achieved the position of HR VP before 40 years old. So share with us here, what's the secret to achieve that?
I was always ready to take up those challenges, new assignments, not only within one organization, but across organizations.
So how did you transition from engineering into HR?
So I was working very closely with the HR department there.
Is there anything unique from Netflix culture that you would like to share? How does it work in practice from an HR perspective?
At the core of all these companies, if you see, it's an amazing product and the customer centricity.
What was the approach to hiring at Netflix?
We are not a family. We are a team of champions.
What does that mean in practice when you're hiring? How was performance, the feedback handled at Netflix, especially because it's such a fast-paced environment?
The manager always try and assess their team members on a regular basis around 3 questions. If this person comes to me today and tells me that I'm leaving, how hard will you fight to retain that person in your team?
There is a very famous test at Netflix.
Yeah, so the name for it is the keeper's test. Is this person a keeper or not? Expense policy of Netflix is only one line. It says, spend this as if it is your money.
That's actually written in the policy, Atma, or?
That's all.
That's all?
Policy, that's all.
Someone needs to approve the expenses. They go up to you to approve. What's your support, your baseline for approving or not?
There is no approval required.
How does that work? Hello, Atma. Nice to meet you, finally.
Hello, João. Nice to meet you finally. And it's very interesting to meet you after a long time. I know we have been planning for some time, but finally we are here. So I'm very excited for the conversation.
Finally, we got a chance to speak a little bit and get to know you and your profile. Because I think your profile is very interesting here for the show, because you present yourself as an engineer that turned into an HR professional. On top of that, you present yourself as being top 20 HR influencers in 2025, 40 under 40 leader, with an interesting industry mix, like you've worked in Netflix, nowadays you work in green energy. So I felt there's a story here for us to tell and broadcast to the audience. So thank you for accepting and for being willing to go through the show. But I would like to go back and understand how all that started. So how did you transition from engineering into HR? How did this happen?
The story goes back when I was working in my second firm after my engineering. I was part of the team which was responsible for one of the largest technology transformation. In my role, I was not only working on the know-how of the technology which was going to happen in that organization, but also I was working very closely with the HR department there in terms of the change management, which was coming, our way at that point of time. So how do we train people? How do we make them ready for what is coming? So I did a lot of trainings at that point of time. So when I was doing that activity or that exercise, I realized that I was totally enjoying it. Spending my time in terms of building or developing capabilities of the people. This is amazing. I loved it thoroughly. And then I realized that there is so much to be done in the HR in that form. What I realized. And I thought, okay, this is what I really want to pursue. And I think this is I'm going to enjoy for the rest of my life. When I did my analysis, did my research, I realized the best way to do it, to do a proper graduation in HR, learning the fundamentals of it with coming from a STEM background, you are more left-brained. How do you try and train yourself in the psychology, which is very, very important part of the HR or any human resources profession? I chose one of a reputed institution in India, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which is in Mumbai, the financial capital of the country. I went there, did my graduation for 2 years. Then I formally transitioned into the HR.
Tata name is a name that even from Portugal, I know it's a respectful name, right? Tata Industries.
Yes.
These are connected between Tata Industries and the Tata School?
Yes, absolutely. So the Tata Industries or the Tata Group has a Tata Trust, which primarily runs the school where I went to. So it has a legacy and it has its philosophy. And then, it is not like a typical B school. I mean, like the Ivy B schools in India, we also have these B schools. These are India Ivy B schools, I would say. But this is more of a social sciences school where, which is more value driven by the Tatas who have been in the business for such a long time.
You achieved the position of HR VP before 40 years old. So share with us here, what's the secret to achieve that?
I don't like business as usual. Just to put it into the perspective, I don't like when things are stable, they're going well, you have a very, very predictable life. So I hate predictability in the life.
Okay.
Just look at also my profile. That is one of the reasons I have worked across industries, across different organizations, which takes a lot of effort every time when you move to a new organization, when you move to a new industry, working from scratch, grounding up, which is not very, very easy. And every time I did this, I had to put through a lot of things to again, build my reputation, understanding the industry, applying my knowledge in the fundamentals of HR. So I think always be ready to I was always ready to take up those challenges, new assignments, not only within one organization but across organizations, across locations. I have a global experience across all geographies. I've worked Asia Pacific primarily, but also EMEA and the US market to a larger extent, and within HR across different verticals. So right from HR transformation to HR technology to total rewards to HR business partnering to talent acquisition to HR program manager also. So and I think when I did look back, I think these are the some of the reasons which helped me to grow. Like to help me to fast track my career and to be an HR VP or rather a vice president role in HR at a younger age.
Congratulations for that. Before speaking to you, Atma, when I saw that you spent more than 4 years at Netflix, I felt like, okay, so Netflix could be one of the companies and one of the experience that could give you that wide view of HR that you just mentioned, right? And at least maybe I'm speaking from my heart or personally, but everyone looks at these companies like Netflix, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta, and Facebook like the dream companies, right? But you've been on the other side. Is there anything unique from Netflix culture that you would like to share? How does it work in practice from an HR perspective?
All the companies, what you named, of course, all of them have their unique cultures and the practices, other than an amazing product. So I think at the core of all these companies, if you see, it's an amazing product and the customer centricity. Everything revolves around that. And if I talk specifically about Netflix and
Right.
from the culture point of view, and which is true probably for all the organization, is a culture is nothing but, which I personally believe, replica of the values of the founder of the organization. So if you get a chance
Mm-hmm.
to meet Reed Hastings, or if you get a chance to listen him at any of the forum, the kind of person he is, he was very clear from the day one what kind of organization he wanted to build. Yeah, right. But when
Right.
they went global in 2016, and then now they have offices in I think more than 18 or 20 countries. Of course, the ethos and the cultures stays the same, but it has a different interpretation in different
Sure.
countries, I would say.
Subculture.
Candidate feedback is the backbone of Netflix culture. Of course, the candidate feedback will have a different meaning in the US market versus in Japan or Korea or India or France or Germany for that matter, right? So those
Right.
local nuances, I'm not sure the Netflix leadership at that point of time what was they were thinking, but I think what we read in the book No Rules, Rules by Reed Hastings, or whatever we read in the culture tech, a majority of it is true. And it has sustained well across these countries, which would have been a bigger challenge for Netflix back in 2016 when they went global, I believe.
I imagine so. So many offices. How do you keep that culture consistent when shocking with local cultures, right? So that's also an interesting challenge. But you, for example, let's bring here some realistic examples. You mentioned recruitment and how candidate feedback was different in different countries. What was the approach to hiring at Netflix? Were there like specific traits that you were looking for, regardless which country?
Yeah, so that is something which is very, very interesting. Unlike all the companies what you have mentioned so far, so in Netflix the managers are really, really empowered. Netflix has a concept of a sports team, right?
Sports team.
Sports team, right? It's like a football team which is coming together and then be the best and win the championship and win the trophies. This is what
Wow.
Netflix says. We are not a family. We are a team of champions.
What does that mean in practice when you're hiring?
If something happens in your family or somebody's not performing, if I may use the corporate word, do you get rid of them? You don't do that, right? But you sort of retrench people in corporate, you lay them off. So if you call them family, you don't do these things in the family, right? So technically, saying that we are a family is not a right word. Rather, we are a team where best people come together and they win championships after championships. One line which always stuck with me, which is in the culture memo of Netflix, it says that come be with us to the best work of your life. I think that is very very true in so many different dimensions. And to answer your question, as I was saying, the managers are empowered. They are the ones who takes a call. So of course, when they hire someone, if they really like, they will go out. They will farm for dissent from different panel members, and if they still really like, they will fight for that person. And Netflix look at some of the valued behavior like judgment, compassion, respect. There's some of the valued behavior which are again mentioned in the culture document. So usually people are assessed on those valued behavior of Netflix, and manager is the one who takes the ultimate call because they are the ones who has to ensure that people comes on board, deliver what they're supposed to deliver, and you thrive within Netflix.
So ultimate responsibility to choose, but also accountability if the person performs or not performs on their teams. Well, speaking about performance then, how was performance feedback handled at Netflix, especially because it's such a fast-paced environment?
Performance management system or the performance evaluation in Netflix is very, very unique. When I say I, what I want to say is that it doesn't have a standard annual or a semi-annual cycle what we see in so many organizations. But as I was saying, the backbone born of the Netflix performance culture is the feedback. The manager always try and assess their team members on a regular basis around three questions. The first question is that, if this person comes to me today and tells me that I'm leaving, uh, how hard will you fight to retain that person in your team?
Okay.
The second question is how critical the role for you. I'm not in the same order, of course. And the third is that is there a replacement of the person in the market? Third, if the person comes to you, which is the sole and hard question, if your team member is coming to you that, hey, I'm leaving today, what will you do about it? So not only the manager is supposed to evaluate the team members on a regular basis, but the team members are also supposed to go and ask their managers that, hey, if I decide to leave today, what will you do? Will you fight hard to keep me in the system? And again, the frequency is not defined by Netflix, that how many times a manager should do the conversation with the team member, because Netflix always believes that we hire fully formed adults. So we don't really have to guide you that, talk once a quarter or once a month. The idea is you decide a frequency basis your interaction with your team members, what handholding they require. So keep on answering these questions on a constant basis.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, there is a dedicated now twice a year 360-degree feedback. So all your stakeholders, who are you working with, you go and invite a feedback from them in the system. Or even if you don't invite someone, very fear somebody might not give a good feedback to you, the people, they are of course free to come and give you feedback, even if you're not asking for that. I remember once I got around 35 feedbacks in one of the cycles. It's a huge number, right? 35 people taking out time, writing about you, some of the compliments, some improvement areas, their observation, and how it can help you. And I believe that, and Netflix believe, and which we try to promote on a regular basis, that feedback is a very selfless service. You're trying and taking out time for someone to tell them that, hey, that's how you can do better. And see, just saying it, writing down in the culture doc or in the culture memo doesn't help. The Netflix leadership, right from top to bottom, in every conversation, every town hall, every email, every memo, they reiterate the importance of giving feedback. They lead by example by telling everyone in the town hall, ask me anything, AMA question halls, uh, everywhere that, hey, this is what the feedback what I have received, which sort of encourages people. Okay, if the CEO is saying that, I'm open to feedback, this is a feedback which was given to me by someone, In fact, a few examples have been written by Reed Hastings in the book No Rules Rules. So people also open up that, okay, this organization is interesting. Even the CEO is encouraging to give the feedback. So the feedback has become a very well-oiled machine in Netflix. And it comes naturally once you go and become a part of it.
And I guess that mindset that you create also, it's not just at the manager level because it also goes down. So imagine that I want to renegotiate my salary, right? And I want to prepare that conversation with my manager. I also need to ask myself how critical I am in the company, how easy I am to replace. All those three questions adapted to the person to understand if that value will be recognized or not. Okay. So that could be a bad thing or a good thing, but at least we'll prepare the conversation to run that test. Okay.
Absolutely.
And speaking about tests, Atma, so there's something called the Keeper's test. There is a very famous test at Netflix. Is this related with anything that we've just talked, or is it something different, this Keeper test?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the name for it is the Keeper's test. And then one line definition of the test is this person is a keeper or not?
What's a keeper? Someone to keep?
Yeah. Do you want to keep that person or not in your team?
Okay.
So the term is like, hey, he's a keeper or she's a keeper or they are a keeper. So manager has to evaluate this keeper's test, what we call, and these three questions they have to answer regularly on behalf of the organization or on behalf of their team rather. And this is where, because manager has given greater freedom to decide. So of course they have the greater responsibilities also.
I think I've seen the same questions in other companies, right? But no one called anything, or no one assumed that, hey, we have this test. It's called the Keeper's test, and that's where our mindset is. So that's something that Netflix did, and it's proud of in terms of also PR from a cultural perspective.
The essence of Keeper's test is just one line. If this person decides to leave tomorrow, how hard will I fight to keep him or her or them? Simple as that. It could be location, compensation, role. And I tell you, the fundamental of this test, where does it come from? Because Netflix is primarily a tech company. When it started, Reed Hastings realized long back that a great engineer will probably deliver 1,000 times more than an average engineer.
Mm-hmm.
A great accountant might deliver, say, 2 times or 3 times. It's very interesting. I love this analogy. Say, great accountant, how much uh, change they will make to the process. Accountant, or I don't know, a similar role, right? Which is more operational role. But an engineer who's working on some innovative solution, a great mind can deliver you 1,000 times better than average mind. So that's where it all started. Like, keep the teams lean, but keep only highly effective people. The word which is being used at Netflix is keep only highly effective people
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
reward them. And then, that's where the philosophy of keeper test goes around on and on.
Does the Keeper test or this kind of analysis, is it only done where there's a decision that needs to happen, or proactively people at Netflix, they are already mapped as keepers, not keepers? Because, there are other ways to manage like succession plans, etc., where you have like high impactful, high performer, A type of employee, and then there's the Bs, the Cs, and everything is already mapped, right? Is this something that also happens at Netflix?
No, it's not like it's not a talent management framework. Again, and the primary reason behind that is Reed always believed in having people over process. So what Netflix believed or believes that processes are good, but don't create too many processes which would lead to bureaucracy. So people are not tag, but it's a continuous evaluation by the team manager. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, uh, through the continuous conversations which they do either monthly or quarterly, or say once in 2 months. But it's not tagged, and in the system, if you're asking that there's high potential, low potential, mid potential, people are not tagged as such, keeper or not keeper in the system.
So after these 4.5 years, more or less, what's one thing working at Netflix that taught you about people that surprised you?
I won't say it is surprising for to me because I've seen it, but it could be surprising to a lot of people out there who have never experienced that culture. Is that when you don't have processes, when you don't have guidelines, when you don't have policies, how do people actually, you know, behave, and it's like, how do they execute on a regular basis? So just to
Mhm.
give you one example, the, the expense policy of Netflix is only one line policy. It says, spend this as if it is your money.
That's actually written in the policy, Atma, or there's a.
That's all.
That's all.
Policy. That's all. There's one pager internal memo which I was talking about. That's all. Now you ask me whether I should travel in business class or a first class, an economy class.
Spend it as if you were your own money.
Yeah. So different people do different things, which is interesting in a way because eventually, of course, when you work in a group, when you work in a team, you tend to start following the norm which is out there.
Right.
But in my experience, as I was telling you, when you hire fully from adults, you really don't have to, uh, put them through a lot of processes. And what Reed used to always say that no matter how many processes you bring in, no matter how many rules you bring in, there are a set of population, say 2% people, they will always fault. They will, misuse it. Even if you don't put anything around, even the percentage stays the same. So like if the misuses stays the same, we don't have such a huge large bureaucracy, then why to keep all these things in place? It doesn't serve any purpose.
How many people work at Netflix?
I think the number should be around across the globe. It's 10,000 plus now. When I joined, it was a small, very very small population. It was around 3,000, but Netflix really grew in through the COVID and later on.
So I'm just challenging you a little bit here. So you're saying that in a company with 10,000 people present in 20 countries, there's no policy for expats?
There's no policy.
Sounds crazy, Atma, to the point that I need to continue asking some things about it. So imagine you are a manager, right? Your team is traveling. Someone needs to approve the expenses. They go up to you to approve. What's your support, your baseline for approving or not?
There's no approval required.
How does that work? How does that work, Atma? There's no approval requirement?
So there's no approval process, but the manager gets a summary of the team member every month, right? So as a manager, you have an idea that how much they're traveling and how much they're spending, or they have a sense in terms of even if somebody is going out of the way. Then of course they have a conversation. Depends from manager to manager, and if there is a if there's a case of say fraud or something that comes into accounting, of course accounting teams take care of it. But managers gets a summary and see, as I was telling in the beginning also, in any organization, the culture is something which starts at the top, goes down to the bottom all the way, right? If your manager is exercising prudence, if your manager is very, very cautious what he's or she's or they're spending, the team members automatically will start following the norm. To give you an example, I know a senior leader who was there, who's still with Netflix, used to travel international also in economy. He always thought, why should I travel in business? Because to a shorter location, say 7 to 8 hours kind of locations, he always traveled in economy. So his team had no choice, but they also started traveling in economy. It's like you follow the norm, I was saying, right? There's no written rule, but when you see your managers in traveling in economy, you get cautious and you don't travel in business class out of
Okay.
respect, out of
No.
team norms. So yeah, it's very interesting in that sense.
Wow, very challenging. I'm just thinking that people that are hearing us right now, they are thinking, oh, now I know why my Netflix subscription is always going up. Maybe to cover the lack of control of costs. So just joking here a little bit.
No, I have an answer for that also, yeah, because it's going up because Netflix putting, I think, around now $20 billion in the content itself.
Right.
It was $18 billion when I was there, remember? So putting that much money into content,
Content needs to be paid. Those TV shows are getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
Getting back to HR here, Hatman, what are the top 3 tools in HR that you cannot stop using?
Microsoft Excel.
To track expenses?
No, to do all the work around compensation, all the calculations. And this is something which is a very, very common problem. But nobody is doing that, is And this is a tool which is not available in the market. I sort of created in one of my previous organization, internal tool which I am created here also, is that how do we make sure my the database is correct? Because there are a lot of error in the database in the system, and that leads
Mhm.
to, because the database, employee database is sort of an input to each and every activity what we do in any organization.
Fueling every dashboard, etc. So it needs to be clear.
So ensuring that, and I'm saying, and of course, intuitively, if you think about it, then you think this data is of course correct everywhere. But if you do a survey, if you ask a couple of HR folks, they would tell you that this is something which they are struggling the most. I mean, it is not easy in that sense. Second, I think tool which is, if I think of the tools which are more useful, is uh, a very realistic sentiment analysis tool. How do we capture the sentiments of the people? And there are very interesting tools which are out there in the market.
Which one do you use for measuring sentiment?
So in my last organization, I used culture and
Filter.
survey monkey is the most easiest and the most the cheapest. Then there's one tool by Lena AI. It's a very interesting tool. There, it's an AI based tool. Then there's another amazing tool called Ember by Infido. So there are some of the amazing tools which are out there in the market, which can be utilized to capture the essence of their employees in terms of what they're feeling, what they want to do, what they're talking about. I think these are the two tools.
Okay.
Third is because it is very specific to LTIs, the long-term incentives. If you're managing long-term incentives, I won't name a tool here, but it's very important to have a tool in place instead of managing those data on an Excel sheet.
Thank you for sharing those tips. And if you look into the future, and what trends do you see shaping the future of work, and how should companies prepare for them?
This is very interesting because this morning I was having a discussion with one of my friend who works with a leading player in the domain of skill in that sense. So I think the biggest transformation which is going to happen is the workplace will be around skills. Jobs will not be relevant. The degrees will not be relevant. All the conversation will be happening only around skill based conversations. This is the work which needs to be done. This is the skill set what I require, and there will be a huge gap. Already we see there is a huge gap of skills in the market across industries. Employers are struggling to hire the right people. There's still a bigger gap between academia and the industry. So I think skill based organization uh, will thrive more. And some of the organization I know which are already preparing to take a lead in the future. So all the organizations or the leaders who are focusing more on the skills at this point of time will
Mhm.
be better placed 5 years from the line. And of
Okay.
course, with the Gen AI and the Agent AI, a lot of disruption is coming our way.
AI will probably help some of those skills, right? Companies will have AI taking care of some of those lower skills.
Yes. So I'm saying that making your people AI ready and ensuring that what roles will be getting eliminated, what new roles are coming your way due to having AI in place. So having that preemptive analysis is going to be very helpful.
Someone that is now starting their career in HR, what would you recommend or advise?
Two pieces, piece one and piece two. I think piece one, the person should be able to understand how to sense the situation. And I will borrow a term from one of my mentor is, can you hold the conversation? Because in HR is a vertical where person who's even a fresher, they end up interacting with a lot of CXOs by the virtue of the function.
Yeah.
Understanding how to hold a conversation or learning your way uh, through it to hold a conversation with the senior leader is a thing to be learned over a course of time. That is very important.
Just to be clear, Atma, we're talking about like chit chat, elevator conversation, or
No, I'm saying strategic conversation in terms of, say, if you're having a conversation around talent management, job rotations, succession planning, retaining the critical talent. So how can you be valuable in those conversations? It's something
Okay.
one has to learn from the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Second thing, if you could build resilience. See, HR is a very, very difficult job. I mean, despite a lot of memes around and a lot of jokes around HR in the market, it's a very difficult job to do, because at the end of the day, you're managing people, and people, they are the biggest asset to the organization, but they are, it is very difficult to manage human eccentricities in any organization, right? Everybody is a unique individual. So understanding how people's psychology, what motivates people, how can you influence people without authority? Because at the junior level, you don't have any authority, right? But still you
Right.
have to influence people. These are very, very critical skills to learn for an individual. Category two is uh, simultaneously you have to be very, very tech savvy, if I may use the word tech savvy, like how dexter you are with AI now, or with Excel for that matter, how quick you are with the data. Because without great data, you cannot tell a great story. So, and the third thing, which probably is the base of these two, is know your business really well. You should know your business to that extent that if someone outsider is having a conversation with you, they're unable to tell whether you are an HR person or a business person. And why I'm telling it is very, very important. I used to think that, okay, it is given. Uh, when you are working in a business, you know the business. But over the years, I have realized, even in my teams, I get sometimes surprised the HR people don't even know the basics of the business. See, the marketing person will be knowing about the marketing, the finance person will be aware of the finance, but the HR person has to understand the entire organization, its philosophy, strategy, its numbers, its future, how the industry is evolving, where you are working, what are your key competencies, or what are the key advantages, what are some of the headwinds or tailwinds you're anticipating in the next few years. Are you going through your annual report diligently every year? You understand the numbers in detail. These are very, very important thing to understand, because until unless you don't understand the business, you will never be able to solve the HR problem. So knowing the business is a non-negotiable. It is the first thing which has to start for a new person or a new beginner to understand from scratch, I would say.
If I may add as well, so these skills are not just for someone that is starting. Some of the things that you mentioned are also important skills that every HR professional should develop right now, because it's going to be useful throughout the career. So thank you for sharing your view. And I felt that those were really relevant for nowadays, and especially looking at the future. Looking at the future, Atman, where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's next for you?
This is very, very interesting. 10 years is a long horizon. I think sometimes I deliberate and discuss with my wife that, when and how to become an entrepreneur. So I think the 10 years is a very long horizon, but how do I see myself in 10 years? I think I see myself as an individual, irrespective of if I'm an HR leader or I'm an entrepreneur or I move to a business line. I see myself someone who is able to mentor and coach a larger set of people. This is something which I really enjoy. I'm very, very passionate about it. I go to a lot of campuses, I go to a lot of conferences, and when I interact with the younger generation, primary Gen Z is what we're calling these days. I see myself 10 years down the line to be known someone who has created more and more leaders around himself in the industry, not only within the organization.
We are close to the end, Atma, and I would like to, before we go, challenge you with two things. One of them is, uh, who would you recommend me to invite for this show? So, I always ask everyone in the show if there is an interesting person they would recommend me to invite.
I have a couple of names in my mind. One person, what I have in my mind is Rio. He's the chief talent officer at Netflix, Rio Izama. Second person I would say is CHRO and a very, very influential HR leader in India. His name is Prabir Jha. Third, if I have to pick up one more, she's an ex Netflix leader. She's amazing at what she does. Her name is Lisa Collins.
Challenge accepted, Atma. The last thing that I wanted to challenge you, Atma, before we go is, when I have a guest like yourself that has a generalistic HR profile, I always like to challenge them by bringing two HR topics and ask the guest to choose one as being more important from those two. Then I drop the one that was not chosen and I bring another one. And we continue to do this until in the end we have only one topic, which in theory will be the most important HR topic for you, Atma. Let's see where the conversation takes us. So if we start with comparing talent acquisition and training and development.
Talent acquisition.
Between talent acquisition and compensation benefits.
Talent acquisition.
Talent acquisition and performance management.
I think talent acquisition.
Talent acquisition and employee relations.
Talent acquisition.
Talent acquisition and workforce planning, HR analytics.
Workforce planning and HR analytics.
There's a change. Okay. Workforce planning and HR analytics versus diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I think diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So now we keep diversity, equity, and inclusion against HR technology and systems.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Last one, Atma. Between DEI and engagement and retention.
I think engagement and retention. Belongingness is very, very important. If you don't have belongingness, then DEI has no meaning.
Atma, engagement and retention above all. Thank you for today's conversation and for meeting you. And I hope one day we can meet again somewhere in person.
Yes, no, thank you very much. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much again for having me here. And I loved our conversation. Looking forward to hopefully meet you very soon in person.
Thank you. Enjoy your day. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you very much. You also take care. Bye-bye.